What if one of the world's most secretive militaries is hiding a weapon that could change regional power overnight? Today, we explore the mystery, the rumors, and the strategic signals behind a question that refuses to go away. Does Israel secretly possess an air-launched ballistic missile system? Stay with us, because the clues are subtle, the implications are massive, and the truth may be hiding in plain sight. We're diving into a topic that sits right at the intersection of military secrecy, strategic ambiguity, and global curiosity. Israel is a country known not just for advanced military technology, but for how carefully it controls information about its most sensitive capabilities. Over the decades, Israel has neither fully confirmed nor fully denied possession of certain strategic weapons, choosing instead a policy that keeps adversaries guessing and allies quietly reassured. One of the most intriguing questions to emerge from this approach is whether Israel secretly possesses an air-launched ballistic missile system, often abbreviated as ALBM. At first glance, this may sound like speculation fueled by rumors and online debates. But when you look closer at Israel's aerospace industry, its history of missile development, and the unusual capabilities of its aircraft, the question becomes more serious and far more compelling. Nations do not invest billions in advanced platforms without considering how to maximize their strategic reach. Air-launched ballistic missiles, if they exist in Israel's arsenal, would offer unique advantages, flexibility, surprise, and the ability to strike from unexpected angles while staying outside hostile airspace. In this opening section, we're not here to claim certainty. Instead, we're setting the stage. We'll examine what an air-launched ballistic missile actually is, why such a system matters, and why Israel, given its security environment, would at least consider developing or possessing one. From here, we'll move step by step, separating confirmed facts from informed analysis and understanding why silence itself can sometimes be the loudest signal in military strategy. To understand the mystery, we first need to clarify what an air-launched ballistic missile really is. Unlike cruise missiles, which fly through the atmosphere using wings and engines, ballistic missiles follow a high arc trajectory after launch, exiting or nearly exiting the atmosphere before descending rapidly toward their target. Traditionally, ballistic missiles are launched from ground silos, mobile launchers, or submarines. An air-launched ballistic missile, however, is released from an aircraft, usually a bomber or modified fighter jet, at high altitude and speed. This launch method provides several strategic advantages. First, it extends range without increasing missile size because the aircraft gives the missile an initial boost in altitude and velocity. Second, it allows for greater flexibility in launch positioning, making detection and interception more difficult. Third, it complicates enemy defense planning because the launch point is no longer fixed or easily predictable. Globally, only a few countries are believed to have seriously explored or deployed ALBM systems, largely because they are technically complex and expensive. They require advanced guidance systems, strong aircraft integration, and precise command and control coordination. This is where Israel enters the conversation. Israel has world-class missile engineers, a mature aerospace sector, and decades of experience integrating sophisticated weapons onto aircraft platforms. So when analysts ask whether Israel could possess such a system, the question is not, is it technically possible? But rather, would it make strategic sense? To answer that, we need to look at Israel's security doctrine, its missile development history, and the signals, both subtle and overt, that suggest capabilities beyond what is publicly acknowledged. One of the most important concepts to understand when discussing Israel's advanced weapons is strategic ambiguity. This doctrine has shaped Israeli defense policy for decades. Rather than openly declaring certain capabilities, Israel often chooses silence, allowing adversaries to assume the worst while avoiding political escalation or international pressure. This approach has been most famously associated with discussions around nuclear capability, but it extends into other areas as well. Strategic ambiguity serves multiple purposes. It deters enemies by uncertainty. If an adversary doesn't know exactly what Israel can do, they must plan for the maximum threat. At the same time, it gives Israel diplomatic flexibility, avoiding formal confirmation that could trigger sanctions, arms races, or treaty complications. In this context, an air-launched ballistic missile system fits almost perfectly if Israel possessed such a capability. Openly admitting it might raise concerns among regional rivals and global powers alike. It could provoke responses from neighboring states or draw unwanted scrutiny from international arms control frameworks. On the other hand, quietly possessing the capability would enhance deterrence without forcing Israel to cross political red lines. This is why analysts pay close attention not only to what Israel says, but to what it does not say. When military officials carefully word statements about long-range strike options or multi-domain deterrence, these phrases are often interpreted as hints rather than coincidences. Strategic ambiguity turns silence into a tool, and in the case of a potential ALBM, that silence has been remarkably consistent. Israel's history with missile development adds significant weight to the discussion. For decades, Israel has invested heavily in both defensive and offensive missile technologies. From early surface systems to advanced long-range strike capabilities, Israeli engineers have demonstrated an ability to design compact, precise, and reliable missile platforms under challenging conditions. What makes this particularly relevant is Israel's emphasis on survivability and second strike potential. In a region where distances are relatively short, but threats are numerous, Israel has always sought systems that can operate quickly, unpredictably, and with minimal vulnerability. Air-launched systems naturally align with this philosophy. Aircraft can be dispersed, moved rapidly, and launched from multiple bases, reducing the risk associated with fixed launch sites. Furthermore, Israel's space launch and missile research programs share overlapping technologies, guidance systems, propulsion stages, and re-entry vehicle design. While civilian and military programs are officially separate, the technical knowledge gained in one area often informs the other. This has led analysts to suggest that Israel's ability to develop advanced ballistic systems is already well established. Given this background, the leap from ground or sea-based missiles to an air-launched variant is not as dramatic as it might seem. The real question becomes not capability, but intent, whether Israel sees enough strategic value in such a system to justify its development and continued secrecy. Another key piece of the puzzle lies in Israel's aircraft fleet. Israel operates highly advanced fighter jets with extended range, sophisticated avionics, and heavy payload capacities. Over the years, these aircraft have been customized extensively to meet Israel's unique operational needs. Long-range missions, aerial refueling, and deep strike capability are all central to Israeli air doctrine. Some analysts point to the unusual modifications and test flights associated with certain aircraft as indirect clues. While no official confirmation exists, there have been persistent observations of aircraft conducting missions consistent with heavy, specialized payload integration. This does not prove the existence of an air-launched ballistic missile, but it does show that the infrastructure to support such a system could exist. Integration is one of the hardest parts of deploying an ALBM. The aircraft must handle the missile's weight and aerodynamics, and the pilot, or automated systems, must release it under precise conditions. Israel's long experience integrating complex weapons, including advanced standoff munitions, suggests that this challenge would be within reach. Importantly, Israel rarely showcases its most sensitive capabilities in public air shows or press releases. What we see is usually a generation behind what is actually operational. This gap between visible technology and suspected capability is exactly where speculation about an ALBM system continues to thrive. Israel's security environment is unlike that of almost any other country. It faces potential threats from multiple directions, involving different types of missile arsenals and evolving defense systems. In such an environment, deterrence must be layered, credible, and adaptable. An air-launched ballistic missile would add a unique layer to this deterrence structure. From a strategic perspective, such a system would allow Israel to hold distant, hardened targets at risk while reducing reliance on predictable launch methods. It would also complicate enemy missile defense planning, as defenses optimized for ground launch threats might not be positioned to counter an air launch trajectory. Even if never used, the mere possibility of such a capability could influence regional calculations. Deterrence is as much about perception as it is about hardware. If adversaries believe Israel may possess an ALBM, they must factor that uncertainty into every strategic decision they make. This does not mean Israel seeks escalation. Historically, Israel has emphasized deterrence and defense rather than overt power projection. But in a volatile region, having quiet options can be the difference between stability and vulnerability. That reality alone keeps the question alive. Military analysts are careful with their language when discussing this topic. Most will say there is no public proof that Israel operates an air-launched ballistic missile system. At the same time, many acknowledge that there is also no technical barrier preventing it. This careful balance of skepticism and openness reflects the lack of hard evidence combined with strong circumstantial indicators. Some experts argue that Israel may have developed prototype or limited deployment systems rather than a full operational fleet. Others suggest that research may exist as a contingency ready to be activated if the strategic environment changes. In modern defense planning, not all capabilities are deployed at scale. Some are kept in reserve, known only to a small circle of decision makers. What stands out is how often the conversation returns to Israel's silence. In military analysis, denial can be as informative as confirmation. Israel has denied certain systems outright in the past, but on this issue, it has largely said nothing. For analysts, that silence is intriguing. One of the most important things to understand is that we may never receive a clear answer. Some military capabilities are designed to remain permanently ambiguous. Confirming an air-launched ballistic missile system could create more problems than it solves for Israel, politically and strategically. International pressure, arms control debates, and regional reactions could all intensify overnight. By contrast, ambiguity allows Israel to maintain deterrence while avoiding escalation. This is a calculated choice, not an accident. History shows that Israel reveals certain capabilities only after they have been used or when secrecy no longer offers an advantage. Until then, speculation fills the gap. In this sense, the mystery itself may be part of the strategy. Whether or not Israel possesses an ALBM system today, the discussion highlights a broader trend in modern warfare. Flexibility, integration, and uncertainty are becoming more valuable than sheer numbers. Air-launched systems represent the fusion of air power and strategic strike capability, blurring traditional categories. For regional security, this means future conflicts, if they occur, will be shaped by capabilities that are not fully visible or understood. For global observers, it underscores the limits of open source intelligence when faced with disciplined secrecy. The future may bring more hints, more analyst debates, and more indirect signals, but it may never bring confirmation. So, does Israel secretly possess an air-launched ballistic missile system? The honest answer is that no public evidence confirms it, but plenty of strategic logic supports the possibility. Israel has the technology, the expertise, and the motivation. What it also has is a long tradition of saying very little about what matters most. In the end, the real story may not be about one specific weapon, but about how modern deterrence works. Power today is not only about what you show, but about what others believe you might have. Israel has mastered that balance better than most. If you found this deep dive insightful, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think? Capability, contingency, or pure speculation? Stay tuned for more in-depth analysis on the world's most secretive military technologies.